Motojitsu. Who does this guy think he is? He's telling us what to do. Does he really know what he's talking about, or is he just another internet pretty boy that needs to be taken down? Well, that's what I'm here to find out. Please like and subscribe. Don't let that intro fool you. I don't have any problem with Motojitsu. I've been told that in order to keep viewers engaged for, beyond 30 seconds, the first 30 seconds has to really sell, and in some cases oversell what it is you're there to talk about. Motojitsu, I'm sure pretty much everyone watching this knows, is a guy who lives out in California and has dedicated his life to motorcycle skills and education. And he puts out, he's worked as an instructor. I know he does a lot of free private instruction, which is really amazing. And he puts out a seemingly endless stream of content. And I gotta tell you, I tip my cap to him in terms of finding new stuff to say about the same subjects, because he does hit the same subjects over and over and over again, which is great, because every time he says it a little bit differently, and sometimes you'll hear something said one way and you won't quite get it, and then you'll hear it another way and you'll say, okay, now I get what he's talking about. A lot of the stuff is repackaged California Superbike School and Yamaha Champ School stuff, but that's absolutely fine. When you go to high school and you're taking that U.S. history course, it's not like the teacher has written the material that day. It's stuff that was taught to them. In fact, I remember a video of his where he had just gone to California Superbike School, and he was in one of his following videos, he gave advice about cornering that was almost verbatim what they said in California Superbike School, which I've done myself a couple of times and plan on doing more of. And again, I have no problem about that at all. In his case, I think for some people, that's not great. For some people, it's just plagiarism. But for him, I think it's genuinely, he's enthusiastic and passionate about sharing this material and getting this stuff out there. So why this video then? What possible problem could I have with this guy? Well, again, I have no problem with it. There's just one thing that he's shown in a couple of videos, which, while what he said is accurate and true and will keep you safe, he presents it in a way that suggests it's the only way to do it, and anything else is wrong. And I disagree with that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. So what is this area that I have an issue with? Is it on cornering? Is it on trail braking? Is it on doing wheelies or stoppies or slow speed skills done in a parking lot? No, it's none of that. It's on what to do when you come up to a traffic light. I spent some time, I've been thinking about doing this video for a while, and unfortunately, I didn't bookmark the video that inspired this one. I did find another one where he talks about the same subject, and I'll be linking that down below. So get to it already. What's the problem? So in the video that inspired this one, I actually like a lot of what he says. When he talks about coming up to a light, he says, first you do this, then you do this, then you do this. You step on your rear brake, you raise your visor. And it was that one little note that really made me pay attention. You raise your visor, you step on your rear brake, and you raise your visor. That's interesting. And the reason that it's interesting to me is it tells me he's really thought about every single part of this, and he's established a methodology. I'm a software engineer, and methodologies are really important to me. At the same time, anti-patterns are also really important to me, especially the notion of drunken man, where you just kind of blindly lurch from one thing to another, hoping that will be the solution for whatever you're dealing with, whatever problem you're trying to troubleshoot. The great thing about having a methodology for something like this is you do it, ideally, you do it every single time that you are in that situation. You do it over and over again to the point where it becomes muscle memory, where it becomes something that involves zero cognitive load. And now that you've offloaded all those things, now you can be more attentive to your surroundings. When you come up to a light, the big concern is getting rear-ended. If you get rear-ended in a car, you know, you're going to be okay. You might have a backache, or your neck might get hurt, or something. But if it happens on a motorcycle, you might die. So being able to be attentive and aware of what's around you is by far the most important part of sitting at a light. And by the way, anybody who's going to bring up lane splitting or filtering in order to protect yourself from this kind of thing, yep, absolutely. You want to do that if it's possible and legal. But this is a video where we're discussing something different, so I'm not going to be talking about that. So the thing that he spoke about at length was the idea of always having your bike in first gear when you're sitting at a light. You want your bike to be pointing in the direction of an escape route. An escape route being where you're going to accelerate too quickly if you see someone coming up behind you too fast or something like that. For me, right now, that's this turning lane, and I can see that the cars extend back far enough so nobody can come into this turning lane right now. That makes it an ideal spot for me to escape to if somebody comes up from my left side and looks like they're gonna, come to the right and plow into me. So now I'm at this light and my bike is in neutral. I have hill hold assist on this bike, so a lot of times I take my hands completely off the bars. That might shock and upset Motojitsu adherents. I actually did get into an argument with somebody on Reddit about this one time, which is funny because I'm not telling him not to do it Motojitsu's way. I'm just saying that's not what I do. What I do when I come up to a light, I'll just talk about what happens once I stop. So for me, the reason is not a strength issue. It's because I simply don't think it's necessary given my own methodology. And my methodology is, longtime viewers of my channel know that I used to be a semi-truck driver. And my methodologies are based around that, are based around having been a semi-truck driver. One of the things that you learn when you're a semi-truck driver, yeah, okay. Gonna get away from you as fast as I can. One of the things you learn as a semi-truck driver is to not target fixate. You're generally, most of us are taught to look in one direction for maybe 2 seconds, maybe as much as 4, but usually around 2 seconds. And then just glance into one of your mirrors. It doesn't even matter which one. On a big truck, you often have at least 6 mirrors. So the 2 regular mirrors on either side of the truck, the two spot mirrors on either side of the truck, and the two spot mirrors up on the front of the truck, up on the front of the hood or the bonnet. The thought process is you look ahead for 2 seconds at a time. 2 seconds doesn't sound like much, but it's actually a fairly long time. 2 seconds is more than enough time to give you a full and complete idea of what's going on ahead of you. 1001, 1002. I can describe everything going on ahead of me from what I take in those 2 seconds. When I get to the end of those 2 seconds, when I'm not going around a turn like that, 1001, 1002, I glance down at a mirror. 1001, 1002, I glance down at the other mirror. This bike does not have 6, 8, or 10 mirrors. It's only got the 2, so only 2 places to look, and I just rotate between the 2 of them. When I come up to a light, that changes. The first thing that I do, and you might have noticed it there, is I angle my bike. I angle my bike so that I'm facing my escape route. And then I'll re-angle my bars so that I have a good view behind me in at least one of my mirrors so that I can see anything going on behind me. And that brings us to what is the single most important part of not getting into an accident. Developing situational awareness. When you're moving forward, situationally, the most important place to look is forward. That seems pretty obvious, right? With, like I said, constant checks of your mirrors, so you have as clear an idea of what's going on around you in a 360-degree view. Once you stop, that changes. Once you stop, knowing what's coming up behind you is more important than what's going on in front of you. Of course, you want to know what's going on with the light and anyone coming through the intersection. Maybe there's a maniac about to come through and come onto the wrong side of the street and run you down. You want to know about that. And you better hope that your escape route has taken that into consideration. So again, you come up to a light. You find your escape route as you're approaching the light. You angle your bike towards that escape route. And then you turn your bars so that you can see what's coming up behind you. Now, at this point, a lot of times, and I know people who follow Motojitsu will find this to be heresy, but at this point, I put the bike in neutral. I let go of the clutch. As I said, I have hill hold assist, so I often let go of the bars entirely. And the reason for that is leaving your bike in gear will do nothing to save you from an accident. Nothing at all if you are not situationally aware. You can put your bike in any gear that you want. It won't matter at all. If you're not paying attention to what's going on around you, if you don't know how many cars are behind you, if you don't know if the cars behind you are moving or not, then it's not going to matter what gear you're in. So why even bother taking my bike out of gear? Why not just remain hyper vigilant all the time? Leave the bike in first, and if somebody does something you don't like, then just take off. Well, because I can do it just as quickly. And this is where I really disagree with Motojitsu. He says, if your bike isn't in gear, you don't stand a chance of getting away. That is not true. If you hit me with my kids in the car, I'll whoop your ass till the cops come. Good luck. Anyways, so here's an example of what I'm talking about. Okay, somebody just pulled into my lane. As soon as I see that, I put my bike in gear. Now that person has come to a stop. And at this point, if the light hadn't turned green, I would have taken my bike back out of gear. And that's where the methodology comes in. That's where developing methodologies keep you safe. In this case, it's a pretty simple methodology. Come up to the light with your bike angled in a way that you can take advantage of an escape route. Angle your bars so that you can see what is going on behind you, right directly behind you, and if possible, as much to the side as you possibly can. And then you watch those mirrors. Flick your eyes up occasionally to the lights, you know, keep it in your peripheral vision, whatever. Find what works for you. And then take your bike out of gear. When you see someone coming up behind you, you put your bike back into gear. When they come up behind you and stop, you take your bike back out of gear. You relax. As I've said before, I don't think there's anything wrong with the way Motojitsu is doing it. I just don't think it's the only way. Okay, now here, I have multiple cars behind me, so I'm just putting the bike into neutral and I'm leaving it. Because unless somebody tries to pass on the right, which isn't going to be possible right now, nobody's going to hit me from behind. Gonna let this truck go if the opportunity presents itself. That said, even though I know exactly, even though I know entirely what's going on behind me, there's 4, 5, 6 cars stopped behind me. I'm still keeping an eye back there. I'm not changing my focus. And that's what's called situational awareness. The situation dictates that I primarily look in one direction. Here we go again, okay? Come to a stop, facing an escape route, which is anywhere I want to go. I stop. I've already put the bike in neutral. It's not great for this example because normally I would stay in gear until after I was stopped. In this case, I knew exactly what was going on behind me. I knew there was a line of traffic behind me. And that blue Toyota right behind me, I don't feel was a threat. So I put the bike in neutral. I'm on an incline here. I have the bike on hill hold assist. I have both feet on the ground. And I'm going to be fine because I know what's going on around me. I have a blue Nissan something or other to my right. There's nobody behind them. So if somebody does come up behind that car, I'll put the bike in gear again until they stop. But if nobody comes up behind that person, I'm staying in neutral until that light changes. And no harm is going to come to me. Now, am I advocating for people to do things like this? No, I'm not. No, I'm just showing you the way I do it and presenting the case that there is more than one way to pull up and stop at a traffic light safely. I thought one of the funnier bits of Motojitsu's presentations on this is that people say to him, oh, if you sit there with your clutch pulled in, it's going to ruin the clutch. You know, a notion which he correctly derides. When you're sitting there with the clutch fully pulled in, it's disengaged. Nothing is touching the plates. There's no wear that's going to happen there. None whatsoever. Yeah, the real danger zone for stopping at a light is not whether or not you have your bike in gear. That is a peripheral issue. The real danger zone is simply, are you aware of what's going on around you? And that's something that I would recommend to anybody as absolutely essential. I'm not recommending that you pull up to a traffic light and do things the way I do. That's irrelevant. Whether you do it my way, whether you do it his way, doesn't matter at all. What does matter, and what I would recommend that you develop in the strongest possible terms, is developing that situational awareness and understanding the difference between situations. Again, you're going forward. You want to look that way primarily. When you're stopped at a light, you primarily want to keep an eye on your mirrors and any other direction that somebody could be entering your space from. That's not something that happens that often at lights, but I'm still going to be aware of what's coming towards me. I'm just going to be primarily looking in my rear view mirrors. I'm going to be aware of what's coming towards me. If I'm near the intersection, I'm going to be aware of what's coming from the side or from a driveway to the side. Nobody's perfect. I might get taken out eventually, but it's not going to be by somebody at a traffic light. That's a dumb way to die, and I'm not going to die dumb. Once again, facing my escape zone, my escape route. Bars angled so I can see behind me. There is nobody behind me, so I'm going to be fairly vigilant to that. I also have cars coming towards me. I'm going to be giving them a small degree of attention. Not that much, because there is a car in front of me and it'd be really kind of hard for them to hit me. Car coming up behind me. I'm in gear. That car has stopped and I am back in neutral. Repetition, developing muscle memory, reducing the cognitive load. This is all an important part of this. You don't want to have to think about it ever. I'm coming up to this light. I'm going to make a right. There's nobody behind me right now, and it's a red light. So I'm stopping. I've come to a complete stop. I've put the bike in neutral. I release the clutch. I'm looking behind me, taking the occasional glance forward. As soon as somebody comes into my lane, if they do, I'm going to be putting this bike back into gear. This is going to be anticlimactic, I think. Oh, okay, someone's coming. They're getting to the point where they have to pick a lane, and my bike is in gear. They're not taking my lane, and neither is the car behind them. And I'm in neutral again. Still nobody behind me, so the vigilance remains very high. But why take the bike out of gear at all? You don't have to take the bike out of gear. You could just leave the bike in gear, and then you remove those extra steps. If you feel that way, do it that way. In fact, I'll go so far as to say, don't do it my way until you are positive that you have developed that situational awareness. I'll tell you what though, in gear or not gear, if you haven't developed that yet, you are not safe. At an intersection like this, I'll look around a little bit more, especially towards the people coming from that direction. That could be a threat if somebody has a heart attack or something and steers into me. That'd be a hard one to get away from too. Okay, car coming up behind me, not in my lane, but still, due diligence. Now here's a different kind of situation. I'm coming up to a light, a red light. It might be green by the time I get there, but I have a car behind me. I have a car right behind me. I want to be aware of that. So yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on him. He is slowing down appropriately, so I'm not going to worry about him too much. But if I had come up to the light and he had stayed behind me, I would have kept the bike in gear until he was at a complete stop. Now, however, I'm in a situation where nobody's getting to me here. That still doesn't mean completely relax, but I might look around a little bit more. Here's an exercise for you that you can take away. I wasn't originally planning on giving homework, but you know, I just thought of this. It might not be a bad idea. This is all stuff that I have done in the course of being a truck driver, going through the Smith system and other methodologies that they teach you to try and keep you safe. When you come up to a light, describe to yourself out loud what you're doing. When are you pulling in the brake? When are you stepping on the brake? When are you raising your visor? Where are you looking? Just describe that stuff out loud. Don't just think it in your head. That doesn't, psychologically, there is a difference in creating the neural pathways that will help lead you to having this go from just being a half-baked idea you hear from some crackpot on the internet to a methodology that involves no cognitive load. So for instance, I'm coming up to this light, I'm downshifting. I'm checking my mirrors to see what's behind me, pulling in my front brake, downshifting again, hitting my rear brake, opening my visor, pulling in the clutch, downshifting again, aiming towards my escape route, setting hill hold, angling my mirrors so I can see what's going on behind me, and finally putting the bike into neutral. I can see a car coming up behind us. He is currently in my lane, so I put the bike in gear, keeping my eye on him, noting he's slowing down appropriately. And that car has come to a complete stop. And now I put it back into neutral. Light changes, I put the bike back into gear, and I pull away. Everybody's safe and happy. Finally, there's one last thing I'd like to discuss in terms of preparation for being safe at traffic lights. And that's the idea, that's the notion of the stale green. You can see that light up there is green, and now it's turned yellow. So it's going to be red when I get there. A stale green, this is another thing that's taught in truck driving. A stale green is a concept that was taught to me when I was learning to be a truck driver. And maybe you already know it, but if you don't, what a stale green is simply a green light that you didn't see turn green. So when you see a light, when you come around a bend and you see a traffic light that's green, but you didn't see it turn green, you have no idea how much longer it's going to be green. The general rule of thumb, when you come around that turn and you see the green light, you just be aware that it's a stale green, and you just be prepared to start braking if it turns yellow and subsequently red. The point behind the stale green is just to be a little bit more aware of what's going on. If you come around the turn and you see a stale green, you have no idea when it turns green. You have no idea how long it's going to be green. So you start getting ready to come to a stop. You take a quick survey of what's going on around you, cars behind you, anyone coming out from the sides, all the normal stuff you do. And then if you have to, you come to a stop at the fresh red light. If you're in Toowoomba, you know that means you're going to be there for a while. Well, that's about it. I've gone on a little longer than I meant to, but you know, these things tend to run longer when you actually start saying the stuff out loud. If you have any questions or comments, if you think that I'm onto something, or if you think I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments. Let's keep the conversation going. All right, everybody, as always, thanks for coming along for the ride. Get home safe, and enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll see you next time.